across the state.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and get people to get their lunches, and then we'll say a prayer. All right, you good?
Yeah.
Everybody.
Right. What I don't like about it is that you have.
I'd like to welcome everybody here to our
won't
GSPE
come out to
monthly
see on
meeting.
live stream.
Dan Rickball, president of GSPE. We want to go ahead and get started with the meeting. If you don't remember what you signed up for on the sandwiches, it's on the sign-in sheet, but I think everybody should be good. If you would go ahead and make your way over here to the table, they're lettered by, C for chicken salad and T for turkey, that kind of thing. But if you go ahead and get your lunches, bring it back, find a spot on the table to sit, and then we'll have a prayer and pledge to begin our meeting.
Mr. AP, this, you want to just click it. The buttons here, that's back, that's forward.
Okay. So you got a backup presentation on. Good.
And it'll show you the slide you're on and the next slide.
Yes.
Technical assistant.
Supervisor.
Appreciate it.
Supervisor. You did a fantastic job. It looks like.
I got to stick to my
Now you don't have your back towards it.
Here you go. I'll scoot it right on around.
Okay.
That way I can help Graham if he needs something.
Yeah. That was me. I'd have mustard peas.
Yeah, it's definitely something to manage.
Well, this is his second laptop.
Oh.
I've done it a
few times now that I'm sort of getting the hang of it now.
Did you get the flag?
Yeah, he put them out. There's one right there. There's one
corner?
right there.
You have a flag.
Oh, the flag. No, I don't know. I don't. They moved it.
And ask for that. Okay, I see everybody's been able to make their way to get their lunch, and so I want to say a blessing to open this up, and then we'll get into the business portion, and you can continue your meal. So we normally, at this point, would stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance, but I understand our flag is not placed in here, so I'm not a big fan of Pledge Allegiance to a wall, so we'll have to skip that part of it, but thankful for our country. But yeah, if you would pause with me just a moment, and we'll say a blessing. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time that we can gather together to share ideas, and to better promote our engineering services in order to benefit others. Pray, Lord, that you would please guide our minds and our hearts as we make decisions on the work that we do every day. We commit our business, our clients, and our workforce to you, and we pray that everything we will do will be with the utmost integrity to honor you. And we pray that you will be with our speaker, that you will guide him in what he shares with us today. Thank you for this food that's been provided. May it bless and strengthen our bodies to serve you and to serve others. In Jesus' name we pray. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nathan McDonald, our Vice President, to go over some GSPE updates and a few housekeeping items.
You guys are in bad hands on the housekeeper, but anyway, if you would remember just to sign in, you got the sign-in sheet at the door in case you need a PDH or a receipt. We're always pushing GSPE and GSPE memberships. It helps fund what we do. It helps push forward our goals, our map counts, the things we do in the community. Just to make everybody knowledgeable of that. And then at the bottom, you've got the information where you can go join and look at the benefits. As far as map counts, we had 5 schools participate. The trophies were sent out, the t-shirts were sent out, and then the national competition will actually be held in person. That date is still coming. Exciting because we're getting out of the pandemic, moving into clear waters. And then also the 2022 local competitions will be in person. So that's super exciting. Just a few upcoming events that we've got coming. So next month we'll have Ray Carnes from RegTech, kind of talking about how RegTech came about and where they're going. Very exciting for our local community. We're also going to take a field trip the 26th of August, and we'll go to the Columbia County Performing Arts Center. I'm not sure exactly who's going to host that or who's going to lead that tour, but it's going to be exciting nonetheless. That building is beautiful. And then September 23rd, we're going to get a plant mobile update, and Mike McCracken is going to lead that location to be determined. And with that, I will turn it over to Dan, and Dan's going to introduce our speaker.
Actually, you didn't have a bio on this because Brad told me he was going to introduce you. Brad's not here.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, all right.
We can't give a good enough introduction.
Okay, before I introduce our speaker, I want to recognize one of our attendees. Today, I understand Sean Shepard that he just passed his PE, and so our organization is all about passing your PE. That's one of our big benefits. So congratulations. Let's give him a hand. Just passed all. Is there anybody else in that regard? Passing PE or going for the PE? Okay, I appreciate what he's done. We do have the live stream that Graham Sizemore set up, so I appreciate that. There's some folks that will be watching through that streaming device, so I appreciate him setting that up. We also are working, we've got a meeting, pretty solid plan for that. I think Thomas, there, I think you were going to be coordinating the tour for the Performing Arts Center. So we know that's going to be on site, and there's different project managers, so we'll make sure all those details are sent out to you guys. We're also looking at our last month meeting in May. It will be the RegTech headquarters guy, and we're going to change up our menu a little bit. We're going to give you an option of barbecue with French fries if you want, or pasta salad. So that, but we'll still have the other sandwich orders in case you don't like barbecue. But we thought with the RegTech guy, that kind of goes together.
So we'll have that option, hopefully have a good turnout for our last meeting before we break for the summer. And if there's some interest, let us know about attending a Green Jackets game or going to Top Golf this summer for maybe one social gathering over the summer break. If you guys are interested, let us know. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to our speaker. This is H.B. Brantley. He's the lead with H.J. Russell and Company, and he's going to be talking about the design aspects of the new James Brown Arena. So please give a warm welcome to H.B. Brantley.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hear me? Well, thank you for the introduction, Rob. I appreciate that. Just to give you all a little background, we are serving as the owner's rep program manager for the James Brown Arena project on behalf of the Industrial Richmond County College of Georgia. We were retained in January 2020 to work with the Coliseum Authority to try to move the project forward. Before we got on board, there was a lot of discussion about which site to put it on and where. So when we got on board, we were able to solidify the decision to go with the current site and to actually make a physical connection to the existing real auditorium. So my background is in one of architecture. I have a master's degree in architecture. I got into the program management side, owner's representation, working with a group called Russell Space Needs, which is a division of H.J. Russell Company, which was formed in 2017 to focus on these type facilities. We've worked on projects such as the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, on the construction management side, State Farm Arena, Atlanta Hawks Arena, on the program management side, as well as their practice facility, and currently work on the Stockbridge Amphitheater, as well as this project. So what I'm going to do is kind of take you all through the process from when we came on board in January of 2020 to where we are right now and some of the latest renderings that we have based on the schematic design process. So having said that, what I want to do is give a project overview, and the project overview starts with the preliminary building program. The way we got to the preliminary building program is we had to go through a market analysis to determine what was the right size building for this particular market. So also want to make sure we right-size it for the market and also right-size it for the particular audience that will be attracted and the type of acts that will be attracted to it. So we realized that it has to have a certain amount of components to it. So we have a ballroom, meeting room, and some premium space elements that have to be programmed, I'm sorry. So in our research and looking at the others that have been developed within the region, I'll show you a map of those that are on comparables that we have to look at all the competition. But we realized the site size is 11 acres. So that means the arena size, based on the capacity, going to be right around 300,000 square feet. We're still right at that number right now in terms of size. I can say that as of last week, the in-stage capacity, we're right around 10,100 seats now, so it's about 100 based on this last report. The center stage capacity is 11,500 based on our presentation last week. And we still have the same amount of premium seats as well as suite in terms of 12. You'll see later in the presentation what we have is alternative ballrooms, and we're probably going to be half that size of the ballroom because we're combining that with a roof terrace. We also have room for the board, have their office, as well as the spectrum management have their space as well. So the unique thing about this is that it's visually connected to the Bell Auditorium, and it's going to have an outdoor plasma as well. So that's right side to this particular market. So right side, you have to do a cost summary as well. So this is based on the conceptual design, and I'll tell you what we're doing now regarding the cost of the later presentation. But based on the conceptual design, these are numbers that we came up with regarding the building construction, the site work, and the soft cost, the projected total cost of 200 buildings. So right now, we realize the project will be bought out in 2022, so we have to project it out to $2022. So that amount is $228 million all in for the side arena we talked about. There's some discussion about the parking deck, and we're not saying don't build a parking deck, we're saying not in phase one. We do have a placeholder for it to be located. When it's time, we can do it at a later phase. But we submit that there is enough parking readily available within a convenient industry national standard of 15-minute walk to the new arena site. And we have the ballroom in there as an alternate. So where we are now, we were thankful that the S.P.A.C.E funding passed on March 16th, overwhelmingly by 72% of the vote, I'm told. Of that S.P.A.C.E vote, we will receive $25 million from that $250 million allowance, I'm sorry, that the vote approved. We did a schematic design presentation to the board, to the city, and to other public and city stakeholders on March 11th in the run-up to the presentation. That was well received. We also realized that we need to have some hard numbers put on this particular effort as we move forward through the design process. So the numbers that I showed you were conceptual design numbers. So what we have now is we have a pre-construction cost consultant that we have on board and actually just signed the contract this morning to assist with us, to assist the team. And the thing is, the authority wanted to have somebody that actually constructed these projects before, not just a company that does cost estimating service. So what we did was we put an RFQ, publicized an RFQ, and sent it to the top 20 stadium and arena buildings in the country. And we received feedback from 13 of those, and out of those 13, 6 submitted. And out of that 6, we shortlisted to 2, and we selected PCL Construction, who has extensive experience in this type of facility, to assist us for the next 6 months in terms of putting together the schedule, construction schedule, the budget, the cost estimate, as well as the constructability issue. So right now, we did that, and also we had Spectra, the event manager, the venue manager, do a food and beverage survey, to determine what type of food and beverage offerings that the community would like to see. So those were some very interesting results that we got, but I think that we're going to incorporate a lot of that into what we do going forward with making the food and beverage options uniquely Augusta. So we're also going to be doing some community meetings in addition to these as we move forward and as things open up a little bit more post-COVID-19. So we're projecting sometime in the summer we'll be going to different communities, having these presentations and discussions to make sure we sustain and maintain the excitement that we receive and the support that we receive for this project since its loss vote, leading up to perhaps a November referendum for a bond referendum for the remaining funding. So to give you an idea, that's the new concept. I don't know if anybody has not seen it before. It's kind of been out there a little bit. By the way, these images are posted on the www.newjamesbrownarena.com website. If for whatever reason you need to see that, as well as most all the reports. But you can see that at the top of the screen, that's the existing Bill Auditorium. And in the center there, that's what we call a connector. And at the bottom is the site plan for the new James Brown Arena. And you see we created some plaza space on both sides. One of the things we wanted to do was we wanted to make sure that this wasn't viewed as a front door, back door situation. We wanted to give the entrances from 7th Street and 8th Street the same level of course. Because realizing what happens across the street now, what's going on across the street now on both sides, may or may not happen 10 years down the road. So we need to be prepared to embrace whatever that is. Okay. So I talked about parking. There was a lot of discussion that we had, and we continue to have, about the availability of parking. So we conducted, on our team, we had, in addition to 100 strategic parking out of Chicago doing the market analysis, we had Kimberly Horn, as well as local company, Infrastructure Systems Management, David Steve Zell, helping us with the parking study. So their parking study deduced that within a 6-block radius, we have at least 5,000 parking spaces that are available. And some are on street, off street, some are utilizing some existing businesses. But that's all considered the norm within the Public Assembly National Planning Standards of 15-minute walks. So we wanted to do a deeper dive into that as well. So what we did was we looked at what the optimal parking was. So let me zoom out here. So we looked at the optimal parking. And the optimal parking is, those spaces that are, structured parking that are either on street or off street that are really convenient located. So we came up with 3,000 parking spaces that could be utilized for the proposed new arena. So we thought that was sufficient enough to justify making a recommendation of not building a parking deck in phase 1, but let's look and see how the market responds and do that in phase 2. And the other part of that was having an efficient transportation system in terms of getting people in and out, realizing also the impact that rideshare has had on parking demand and the amount of parking that these projects have to provide in an urban area.
What was your minimum parking requirement for the arena?
Yeah, it was, depending on which planning standard you use, it's either 2.4 people per vehicle or 2.7, 2.8. So with that, using that math, we came up with about 3,000 parking spaces that was required. That's a good question. So having said that, we think that within the 3,000, we can accommodate that. And I'll show you when we get to the actual plans what we're providing on site. So the other piece of that was we want to make sure that if we're going to identify these spaces that's within a convenient walk, how we can shuttle people back and forth to the events based on having these large events at the new arena, as well as the Vail. So what we want to do is look at a scenario that was fully loaded, because this thing has 3 different components. It has, or will have, the existing Vail Auditorium, the new James Brown Arena, and also ballroom/roof terrace combo. And events were going on at the same time, and we'll have a parking nightmare, which is a good thing, because we want to be able to address that. So we had some conversations about having a parking lot shuttle that will work both in clockwise and counterclockwise direction to pick people up and drop them off at these parking locations. So in terms of all the competitors out there that are doing, have arenas of this size and capacity, most of them have either built them, renovated them, or plan on building them within the next foreseeable future. Our probably most readily available is Savannah, for example. Savannah Arena, they're building a arena right now that's supposed to come online perhaps at the end of this year, maybe the first quarter of next year, depending on where they are in their construction cycle. But we get asked that all the time about, well, what about the arena in Savannah? Well, Savannah's been a very nice arena, but we think Aldridge is going to be a little bit nicer. And we have more components. We have more to offer, and it is going to be physically connected to a historically significant building, the Vail Auditorium. And it's also going to have a ballroom/roof terrace component to it as well. So to give you some sense of it, I think that's a pretty old graphic as well. But about 9,600 seats. Well, Savannah Arena, sorry, that has 10,000 up there. The actual amount is 9,437 seats that they're building for the Savannah Arena. Our proposed seat is 10,500. This particular size was right around 214,000 square feet. Ours is going to be a little bit more than 300,000 square feet. So you can see we're getting a little bit more scale and quality, but the Savannah Arena was funded by a series of bond referendum and SPA.C.E offerings. So will always be. I mean, we have $25 million in SPA.C.E, so we're going to see some bond funding as well. So you see what the average competition is. And one of the things we want to look at as well is that this particular project will change the route map in terms of how people are promoted or the touring shows, how they look at Augusta. And we will be on the routing map for sure with facilities like this. So let me walk you through the schematic design a little bit. That's a concept of what we saw in the land. That's actually State Farm Arena looking down from what we call the social area down to the land contour. what we're doing is not gonna be anywhere, it's not gonna be on that scale, because you're talking about NBA dollars here, and we obviously don't have an NBA team to invest. But this is something aspirational, and we actually had the Coliseum Authority up there to look at that, to get a sense for the quality and scale of this particular arena, realizing that we can't achieve that level of quantity and quality for $40 that we're paying, but we can come very close. But what we wanted them to look at is the functional adjacencies in terms of how the social spaces interacted with the main concourse, and how the concourse interacted with the outside, and how all of that interacted with the event floor. So we use that as an example for all the projects. So, and you guys are familiar with the existing James Brown Arena. You can see it sits on a 45-degree diagonal, right across the street from the parking lot, and just below the Bell Auditorium. By the way, you see the parking lot across the street, we have actually acquired that location, that trucking company, in the lower corner right here. So all of that's going to become parking lot. You'll see that on some of the drawings later. But we thought it was necessary to go ahead and acquire that. So we have that under contract in Saxon First, so we have a lease agreement to allow that trucking company to stay there until the end of December 2022. All right. So that was, this is the new concept. You see the parking lot across the street is just a blank slate. We also identified that location as a placeholder for a parking deck if one needs to be built at some point in the future. One of the things we like about this, you see the somewhat red mauve colored grill that's in front of the new arena and the parking lot. So what we're doing is we're proposing a drop-off there, and during large event days, that be closed off to vehicle traffic, so you can have a steady flow of people going back and forth between the parking lot and the new venue without having to charge cars. So they basically come down Tailfair and go over the roundabout, kick out on Walker Street. We also wanted to make sure we provide places for garage here to drop off and pick up as well. So this thing has 4 different levels. I'm going to walk you through what I was thinking was regarding connectivity and functional adjacencies and all of that. You see on the upper right-hand corner of the image, that's the Bell Auditorium. So what we're doing with the Bell is that we're bumping that out actually and doing what's called an expansion of that and addressing the premium seating, the restrooms, and the ADA. So what that allows us to do is to create a major pedestrian promenade that connects the Bell, the centerpiece, as well as the new arena. And you'll see that in the architectural rendering. So that's on the Bell Auditorium. So you see on the right side, well, if you're coming into on the left side, that would be a relocated or repurposed kind of a Windsor Club for premium seating and premium experience. And walking down the promenade, so you'll see coming in the door from the parking lot side, there's the ticket office, the box office, the commons area, the loading dock area, all the things that are considered back of the house to support both of these venues are conveniently located right between those two. So one of the thoughts was that when it was contemplated to put this particular facility across the street in the parking lot, to have it, under construction while the existing James Brown Arena is being utilized, it just didn't make sense because it's not the right location. If you want to have some operational efficiency, then these things need to be connected. So that's what we did in this particular concept, so that back of house experience can feed both the Bell as well as the new arena. So you can see coming down the promenade all the way down, and the green represents some other public space that we can have. One of the good things about this engineering group, you guys can appreciate this, is that one of the things that we've experienced with the existing James Brown Arena is that we always have water issues. And the reason is that the current James Brown Arena sits below grade, the event floor. There's probably maybe about 40 feet below grade, you understand. So it's a problem. It's a constant problem with water. The current plan calls for the event floor to be at plaza level. So you can walk in off the platform, let them walk straight to the event floor. And that's also good for operating procedures as well, because the loading area, I wish I had my laser pointer, I can point it.
Actually, the
But-
red button's a laser on that.
Oh, really?
That click, yeah. Sorry, I should have told you that.
Actually, which one? Because I pressed the wrong one to shut the whole thing down. Oh, okay, good. Thank you. Yes, sir.
There you go. I can see it. There you go. Yep.
Oh, there, it's okay. So, back to so this area up here, that represents the loading dock area. So one of the things we wanted to make sure that this particular event, especially when you're loading in some dirt shows like a rodeo, a tractor pull, or something like that, then it's easier to load that in and load that out for those particular venues. And we have adequate storage, as you see, on the backside of the facility. So that's the event floor. Now moving to what we call the main concourse. This means you come in, you have to go up to the main concourse, so you can go down to the seating row area. But that's one level up, and what you see there is in the center. In the center, we have the ballroom. See the little brown area right there in the center? And right behind there's a green area that's called the roof terrace. And right across from there is also another roof terrace. So all areas that you see in green there are kind of outside public spaces. One of the things that we found, from a national planning standpoint is that venues look for opportunities to incorporate more of the outdoor spaces to the indoors. I don't know if it's because it's whole COVID-19 and all that, but people need to have that outdoor relief. So we're providing that in a couple of locations. But we think that this particular ballroom, which is smaller than the one I showed you on the budget showed like an 18,500 square foot ballroom. This is more like a 9,000 to 10,000 square foot ballroom. But what it does, it allows us to have an outdoor roof terrace that's adjacent to it. So I don't know if you've all been to, I can't remember which hotel it was here in Augusta, but it has a kind of a meeting space up there and it opens up to a roof terrace. Similar to this right here. And you can imagine that each one of those, that huge space can be divided up into 3 separate meeting spaces and all have access to the roof terrace, or the roof terrace can be used independently of those other 3 rooms. So that's a good thing. We think those are good opportunities for a pre-function space if you're having an event at the arena or the Bell Auditorium. But you can also have a pre-event space, pre-event activity in that space. The next level is the suite level plan. We propose to have about 12 different suites, 2 different party suites, anywhere between 1,100 premium seating options, and those suites will come anywhere between 14 to 18 people. We think there's a market to have that many suites, and maybe more. In addition to these suites, we also have some low suites as well, which is more comfortable. And it's smaller, and we also look at having what we call open back suites, and that's where you have the same amenities of the suite, but it doesn't have a wall. It has more of a kind of an open back, that's open, that you can circulate around and utilize the premium spaces on the outside. Okay, and that's the upper level floor plan. And this plan has evolved also, even since this amount of months ago. Recently, last week, we received an update from the architect. One of the things we wanted to make sure is that there was always some connectivity to the event floor as you walk around the concourse area. You can always feel connected back to the event floor. We think that helps contribute to the overall experience. So those are just a conglomeration of the different events that we plan around. You can see, starting with the far right over there, that's the center stage configuration. That's probably the largest configuration now, can accommodate about 11,500. You see the in-stage configuration configuration there at the center top, which is probably the most popular and conventional configuration for this type of venue. And most facilities are judged by capacity size, by in-stage configuration. So with that in-stage configuration, we have 10,500 people. All right, so you have Circle D or so, the Circus Act, and you see where we have to put up a curtain to kind of block it off. Below that, you have a monster truck pool. To the left of that, you have a basketball configuration. And to the left of that, you have the rodeo. So all of these configurations can come in anywhere between 9,000 as a minimum up to 11,500 to a max for the center stage. This is a section of the new arena that shows you how those spaces are evolving from a design standpoint. You can see the event floor level that also serves as a three-function space, and how you just come in off the plaza level outside and walk right into the space. And then you have to go up to the next level, which is the main concourse, to go walk down to your seat. And the level above that is a premium seating level. And the level above that is an upper bowl. So one thing about this particular arena is that to give you some idea of the scale and the height of it, the existing arena is probably about 80 to 90 feet high at its highest point. That's because about 40 feet of that is below grade. This particular arena is going to be about 100 feet tall at its apex. So to give you some idea about local height, the Marriott Hotel is an 11-story building. So this is going to be equivalent to a 10-story building. To give you some idea of the height that it's going to be in terms of the impact on the skyline.
You say the elevation plaza green space is going to be about the same level as that event floor on the far left?
Yeah. Right. Obviously, it's not
because of the ground issue. I mean,
yeah.
water.
Right, right. And because of the water issue, also because from an operation standpoint, it's easier to load and offload events when it's located at the event floor. And also from a user standpoint, when you're having a trade show and you don't need the seating bowl, then all of those seats are retractable back into the stands, and you have a 35,000 square foot event floor that can be utilized. So instead of having to come in and go down some stairs, you come right in off the plaza, off the lobby area, walk right into the event. So for an event like that, it's perfect.
Will I have any recessed loading docks where the trucks will pull in and have like a 4 foot?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you'll have that also, but you also have loading dock access, so they can just pull right into the arena. Yeah. So there will be, to answer your question, yes, there will be loading docks that you can just kind of wheel things out, wheel them into the arena. But there'll also be a way that the truck can pull right into the arena and offload that way. All right, so there you go. So you see at the top right there, that elevation is 100 feet 4 inches, and that's at the apex, at the ground. And you start seeing the relationship with the spaces, the event floor, the main concourse, the suite level, the upper level. And the other thing about this height that's contributed to the overall height is that the existing James Brown Arena has 3 levels. This one has 4 or 5. But this James Brown has 2, this one has 4. Okay. Oh, the other thing I want to talk about is the rigging. We want to make sure that all the rigging for this particular facility can accommodate most major shows that are on tour, which is some of the reason that shows that we can't come to Augusta because we can't accommodate our rigging requirements. Well, this will accommodate that. We have a clear, I think it's like 84 feet from event floor to the other side of the structure. So that's kind of what some of these acts want to see. We're actually 14 feet difference between State Farm Arena and this particular new proposed James Brown Arena in terms of the clearance from the event floor to the other side of the structure. So we'll well inside the wheelhouse regardless of what this one can track.
Have you noticed an upward trend in that clearance requirement say over the last 10 years, and where's it gonna go in the next 10 years?
Yeah, well, open air. You kind of unlimited open air. So I don't see, people raising the roof, so to speak, to accommodate these. But I think that, if you have maximum of 100 feet and minimum of 75, 80 feet clearance, that you're in a sweet spot to attract those major events.
You had said that we weren't necessarily considered on part of the circuit because of some of the clear height that we had.
Mhm.
So the question is, would that become an issue in 10 years down the road?
Good question. I think that you'll see some adjustments from the entertainment side before you see adjustments from the physical venue side.
Sure.
Because most venues in this country are already set, within that range. So anything beyond that, then they'll have to go open air and do your thing in those open air stadiums.
Over the last 10 years or so, I've been doing analysis on James Brown roof for specific shows and so forth. And the height was very limited, but also the capacity of the roof.
Right.
Like the Cirque du Soleil shows had to use a smaller rigs in order to accommodate that. And I still remember Carrie Underwood got so upset at me because I told her she couldn't fly her pickup truck across the roof there.
Right.
So all about, she ended up with a carport but
But it's those type things that the new arena will be able to accommodate.
Exactly.
Because you're right, it's not just the clearance, especially it's the capacity and being able to carry that. So, good point. Just jump right in, guys. If you have a question, I like that. So one of the things we wanted to make sure that we did, this is coming in from the parking lot side, is that we wanted to make sure that coming into the arena, the new arena, that you have more of a sense of arrival, and it wasn't like you were walking to your local Walmart, which is the way it is now, that you just walk through the storefront, go to the door, and you're there. We wanted to give a strong sense of arrival and celebrate that. So when you see on the upper level right there, you have some people hanging out above, kind of engaged with people that are coming and going. So we think that level of interaction is good for a venue of this size. You also see one of the things that we challenge the architect is to make this uniquely Augusta. Not just come out with a concept that's a barn, a field house, with a roof on it and say, there you go, and put the events on its side. With Augusta being the entertainment capital that it is, we realized that we had to do something that was iconic, that was uniquely Augusta, and that accommodated the operational needs as well as the budget for this particular facility. So we think we accomplished that. So if you see, there's a lot of brick in Augusta in terms of the indigenous material. We wanted to make sure we took that and celebrated that. We also wanted to complement that with some more futuristic, forward-looking materials. So you'll see the metal panels there laid on a horizontal Flemish line kind of pattern that gives it some entrance and the massing as well. But instead of turning the bricks linearly, we took them vertically. So it appears that the bricks that you see down the red, brown hue, it's like curtains being pulled back. So to give that a feel that this is an entertainment venue. And the glass at the storefront is somewhat the stage, and the brick, the curtains are being peeled back. So that's the look we were going at. And also going to create some topographic interest in terms of coming into the facility. We want to just be a flat space. We want to be a place where you walk through a series of elevations and different things and create these exterior rooms where you have a series of experiences even before you got to the arena. So you'll see some of that a little later. But there, I'm sorry, that's a little mini kind of amphitheater where you can have outdoor gatherings and things of that nature. And you see the kind of microphone right there on the left-hand side to show that it is a entertainment. If you recall, James Brown Entertainment used to always have the leading microphone, so it's kind of paying homage to that as well. That's a piece of public art. The architect, for some reason, found it humorous to do a rain scene. But anyway, that's looking at the pedestrian promenade, and you just passed the bell. But you see, one of the things we're looking at doing in terms of those walls kind of mimic the slits in the building that come down and they turn linearly into the horizontal plane. And those walls are gabion walls that we're going to reuse some materials that we get from the structure maybe get some crushed, we're gonna reuse some crushed concrete and all that, have a crusher on site, and fill those gabion walls with that material. And that's another view looking the other direction. You get a pretty pronounced view now how that vertical stack brick, how it relates to the development panels of the mass. And you see coming out of, away from the building, an extension of those lights or the glazing extending out into the site and going into the berms. We think that those berms create some topographic interest and it's more inviting to kind of play on and engage with. Another view, walking to the Park 8th Street entrance. So the inside, so that's coming in from the Bell Auditorium. And realize that this is kind of a design concept. It kind of lacks a little color and flavor right now. We do know that we're going to have an existing brick on the Bell that we're not going to tamper with, but the other is just a blank canvas that we're working with. But we just wanted to get a sense for the scale of that space. We also have some images that shows you what the premium seating could look like. That's a typical suite. And these are some images from some existing rings that are in place, so these are kind of like vision boards. So the offers that we're proposing is nothing like what this market currently has. So we have already started to see some excitement about the premium seating option and when they become available. So if anybody's interested, please, I'll direct you where to go with that. That is part of premium seating options. City bar. And that's an in-stage performance in the new James Brown Arena that shows you what it could look like. And if I had my laptop, I would play at this point a video that we have that kind of describes and kind of gets you off chapter, but unfortunately my laptop is not here right now. So with that, I'll be happy to engage in questions and all of that. And I appreciate you guys jumping right in there and asking as we go along. That was good.
Where does it stand, beyond the structural design, the structure itself?
No.
That's well in process?
Well, yeah, so I'm sorry, I skipped past that. I realized we were talking to some engineers, right? So Perkins & Will is the architect, and Perkins & Will architecture firm is in the top 5 of sports, public assembly, arena architects in the country. Matter of fact, they're currently architecting the San Francisco Arena. They were retained by the authority 3 or 4 years ago. They were on board when I came on board. And they were responsible for doing some of the site search, site analysis, site validation. They were put under contract in December of last year to advance the design from conceptual design to construction documents. They put together a team of both local and national engineering firms. Some of the locals there we're using is Cranston Engineering. Where's Thomas? Say yay, Thomas? Okay. Also, Nova Engineering is doing, Cranston is doing site survey, civil. Yeah. Okay. And Cranston is, Nova is doing some geotechnical work. So we're going to need, obviously, some other engineers as we move forward, but this is just early in the process. Structural engineers is Walter P. Moore, national structural engineer out of a national sports engineer, structural engineer, and they're working with a company called S.P.A.C.E Engineering out of Atlanta, construction. So there are a lot of, we want to make sure that there's an opportunity for local and national to coexist on the design team. I can tell you that right now we have first of all, the project I told you, we have $25 million in SPLOST, and we have $8 million that the Coliseum Authority realized to refinance with some T-center funding. So out of that, we call that the gap budget. So out of that gap budget, we have 38% participation on the local and small business level that's participating on the design side and doing other work. We've also engaged, some other small contractors to do things like investigation of the Bell Auditorium. So one of the things that the structural engineer had to do is if they're going to be charged to attaching to that structure and doing a bump out, then we need to know what's underground. You can imagine there weren't any structural drawings for the Bell Auditorium, so we had to do some exploratory work. So we retained a local contractor, I think it was JMB Construction, to excavate out around the columns so we could identify what the footings were, and also to do some drilling through the foundation wall so we can determine what the materials are, so that we can also understand what the connection and capacity is going to be for the new design. So those are the type of things that we're doing right now. I don't know if I answered your question, but I kind of went up for a track this a bit.
As the city's new music venue at Lake Olmsted, has that impacted the programming of James Brown or affected it in any way?
Well, when we did our market analysis last year, I don't know how far along that was in terms of its planning.
It probably wasn't that far.
Yeah. So I don't think it was on our radar because I think it was a germination of an idea that was being discussed. And I think now that there's been a company retained to actually, plan for events and make events happen there. So I do know that some of the existing amphitheaters, like the one that's on the river, those are ones that have been factored. In my opinion, that doesn't get enough use. I'd love to see that thing get a little bit more use. Personally, from a design standpoint, I think it gets benefit from having a nice canopy over it. It already has the river as a backdrop. And what we see nationally is that anytime you have these facilities located in the water, or there's some fountains in the river that's geysing water up to generate some interest. I mean, to give it a nice little backdrop. So that's just my personal opinion. Yeah. So right now, I just have a metal canopy up there, as you can find. It's like a carport canopy. All right, questions? Tom, I expect you to ask a question. Come on.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I can ask some things.
All right.
We did a great job. We appreciate it.
No, I should have came with more engineering information. I realized that.
Constructability reviews, do you have any contractor that you're teaming with for constructability as you progress in the design?
Good question. So I told you we went through a process to identify a cost consultant to help us. And I say cost consultant, meaning it's a contract. Somebody's doing these. So part of the scope of work is there's three major components. It's schedule, it's cost estimating, and it's constructability. Constructability at major milestones. So what they're going to do is it's a 6-month engagement, realizing they're going to take the initial schematic design drawings, which we just had completed a couple weeks ago, that's mid-March, and put an estimate on that based on where we are. Okay? But right now, the numbers I showed you were based on the conceptual design, and it was from a cost estimate, not a contract that actually built. So now we have a contractor on board that's actually built these things. They're going to do cost estimate, schedule, and constructability. The cost estimate will be done in 4 parts. 100% schematic design, 50%, well actually 3 parts. 50% design development, and 100% design development. So once we get the estimate, we'll have a pretty good idea of what this is going to cost. And so when we go out for a construction manager RFP for GMP, we'll be armed with these numbers and we'll let the market respond. So that's the plan. I saw a hand up back here. Okay. Questions, anybody?
Thank you, HP, again for coming in town to speak with us, and look forward to hearing future updates as the design progresses. Maybe we get an update in a year from now or so.
Yeah, let's get past the November funding vote.
Yeah,
That's another point also, is that we're going to go on a public relations kind of community engagement matter what we're doing. We want to make sure we have an open process to have this dialogue, to let people know and understand the scope of the work, and also realize we need their support in November to get out and yes, we want to move forward with this.
Anything our group can help with us on?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Well, I want to remind you again, say the date, last Thursday in May, the 27th. We're excited about the calendar. Ray Carnes, the new rec tech, will be here from the headquarters here locally. So excited for that presentation, along with the expanded menu with the barbecue and fries. So look forward to that. And again, if you have any feedback, what you'd like to see our group do, whether it be a game, Green Jackets game, or a Top Golf event, we are considering that for October or November social. Either a Top Golf or a visit to the Hyatt House, which a lot of us probably haven't seen too much inside or got much of the history on that one. But anyway, we're working on those ideas. But if you see anything else